Well, hello there, stamping friends. This is Traci Raether from Plum Crazy Stamping, and today is December 17th, 2025. And today we're going to make a quick little gift. I don't know about you, but I have all of my Christmas cards made. Addresses are printed out on mailing labels. Let me tell you, that took me 2.5 hours to figure it out. Oh boy, every year I should just make a list for 5 years and then, print it out and just add the ones that change or whatever during the year when I figure out how to do it again because I forget year to year. Anyway, as we're getting started today, I ask you to please sign in and let me know your name, where you're watching from, and then we're going to get started. And if you're on YouTube, please make sure that you are signed into your Gmail account. Your Google account or your YouTube account. And then you can use the comments just like you can on Facebook. So let me put the camera down here so that you can see what we're working with today. There we go. We're going to actually use, this is a current stamp set, and it came out for this Christmas. It's called Gingerbread Man. It is part of a bundle that you can get for 10% off. So it includes a number of dies, and you can't see the Gingerbread Man die itself, but what's really cool is this is double. It has a place that it folds, or you can cut it apart and have it make two at the same time. So that's really going to work well today for our project. And then we've got the fun little gingerbread man who's got different facial expressions that are in the part of the stamp set. We've got some gumdrops. We've got some of those little filler stamps. I'm going to use that today. And there's some really, really nice sentiments, but we're not going to include that with what we're doing today. Just want to say hello to Kim and to Pat. Nice to see you. Let's see. I'm glad you got take your pick tool and your silicone mat. And you got your paper pumpkins. So did I. It was sitting on my front porch just about an hour ago. So that's all good news, Kim. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on our project. What we're going to be making today is we're going to use this to make a bookmark. So I don't know about you, but one of the things still on my to-do list is to make some Christmas cookies. So this is going to be the perfect bookmark for your cookie cookbook, any cookbook, or really for that matter, any book that someone is in the middle of enjoying. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing we're going to do is create our bookmark itself, and I'm actually going to have the bookmark be the gingerbread man. Okay, so I've got my die here. I've got some pecan pie, and I'm going to go ahead and just roll this through my cut and emboss machine over here. So I'll be right back. So this does take up the better part of a half a piece of cardstock. There are some edges we can use, so I'll throw that over here for the scrap bin, right? And I'll set my die over there. And what I want to show you is that there is a score line right in the middle of this. And as I said, you can choose to cut this, and then you'd have two gingerbread men to use. It would be a thinner bookmark, But because of the wear and tear that happens with the bookmark, I've decided that I want to keep this together. And I'm actually just going to fold it in half, match up all the edges, and then use my bone folder on this score mark and have that be my bookmark, okay? Now, I'm choosing not to write a message in here, but you surely could. Before I'm going to glue this together just to maintain, its structure. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and stamp on this. So last week, someone asked me if I would do some heat embossing and show you how to use the powder, how the process of heat embossing goes. Now, I'm going to do a full class on that in February, but I thought I would just do a little bit today to get some information to those people that were inquiring about that. So let's go ahead and do that first on our gingerbread man. And because the stamp set is photopolymer, I'm going to put this on a pierce mat. And then I'm going to use what's called Versamark. Now this, let's see what it says the ink is here. It's a watermark stamp pad, stamps on paper. It creates translucent images. So you can use this to look like tone-on-tone stamping. But the thing about this ink is it's really sticky. And that's what we're going to need to do our embossing with embossing powder. And we're going to use winter white today. I mean, this is older than the hills, but it still works. And then I have this awesome plastic spoon. No, just kidding. I have this great embossing tray, which when I pour the powder on top of my image, once I've stamped it, I will be able to take this end off and pour it back in the bottle. I also have the tweezers to hold onto the image when I am heat embossing it so I don't burn my fingers. And then I have a brush that came in this set and just another paintbrush that I have that once I have inked up and then put the embossing powder on my gingerbread man, if there's any stray little particles of embossing powder that I don't want to be speckling my cardstock, I can brush them off. So that is going to sit here for right now. And this is if I have some of these embossing powders in Rubbermaid containers where I literally use my spoon to put the embossing powder on top of the images before I emboss them. So this works great. And the other thing that's in this kit is called an embossing buddy. And this actually, you rub across your cardstock before you put the Versamark on. And what it does is remove any static so that you don't end up with those little particles from static on your cardstock. All right, so let's just set that aside. So you always put that on first. And then we take our Versamark. And I have put my gingerbread man and his face on this stamp set right now. On the stamp, not the set, but... And because this is such a large stamp, I am going to bring my ink to the stamp. Now, this is also, if this large image, if you wanted to do your positioning tool, or if you had the old Stamparatus, or if you own the Misty tool, this is a nice way to make sure that you get a good image by using that piece of equipment. But I'm gonna wing it here and just stamp this up really good, okay? And then I'm going to stamp this on both sides. So we'll start on side one here. and just get it lined up and pressed down. And I am just going to, I let it go straight down. I'm going to firmly press on it. I'm going to give the Versamark ink time to make sure that it is soaking into that cardstock, right? Because we want a really well embossed outline of our gingerbread man, which we're going to be doing, like I said, in the winter white. Okay, so we've got that side. Got that off. Okay, now, oh boy, look at, there's a little area that's missed there. Darn it. Now there is a like a Versamark pen you can get to fill in those kind of things. I don't have one, or if I do, I don't know where it is right now. So our gingerbread man will have experienced someone sticking their finger in the icing. That's how we're going to explain that happening, and that'll be the back of our bookmark. So here, let's get this one lined up and put that in place, and go ahead and press again. Hi, Kelly. All those different pieces do come in that embossing tray. It is in the annual catalog. You can also see it online if you look at the Stampin' Up store. And I believe it's called embossing tools or embossing tray. So it's the tray, the paintbrush, the tweezers, the embossing buddy. I think that's it. All right. There, let's pull this up. There, much better. Okay, so now we're going to put this right into our tray, and we're going to get this embossing powder all over our images. Now, this is what I mean by, I have a large Rubbermaid container that's probably about 3/4 of the size of this, that I put some of my more popular embossing powder in. So I have clear embossing powder in there, and black and silver and gold. I think I have a white that has glitter in it in one of those, but this plain white I didn't happen to have in there. So, all right, let's see if I can try to hang on to this and not mess up the and if some part didn't get covered, then you just kind of slide it back into the powder again, and you want to make sure that it has adhered to all of the spots. Actually, the shoulder looks better than I thought it did. Okay, let's make sure we've got this one with all of the areas covered. I'm going to have to hold on to him a little differently because I don't want to, take off any of the powder. Okay, and now I'm looking to see if there's some speckles on here. So right on the edge, there is over here. And otherwise, I think our embossing buddy did a really good job of cutting down the static. Just a few dots. All right, so now I'm going to move this way out of the way. You do not want to turn on your heat embossing gun right where your powder is, because you know what's going to happen. So just remember to move that out of your way. And I am going to get my heat embossing gun. Now, a blow dryer will not work because it is not hot enough. So I'm going to let this heat up a minute. And then I'm going to just start moving it slowly across the area that I want to emboss And what this does is actually melt the powder to a shiny, glossy look. And you can actually watch it turn from the powder look to the embossed look as it melts. Ooh, that's kind of hot. All right. Now the end of that heat gun is really hot, so I do use the stand to sit it up a bit while it cools off. And one of the areas that this went over was right on the edge. But here you can see a couple of dots, maybe very close there, that I missed with the paintbrush. Or I blew them on here initially when I was starting to melt it. So, it ends up being a nice, solid, shiny line. Okay. Isn't he adorable? Okay, so let's go ahead and glue this together so we can let that set while we're going to make his hat and a scarf today. So I'm just going to put a little glue inside here. Glue him together. And now with 2 layers of cardstock, this is really pretty solid, as far as the wear and tear. If you're worried about that, when this is all said and done, if you have an laminating machine, you could laminate this bookmark too. And then, you're not going to have to worry about it at all. So when I make bookmarks, depending upon the occasion, a lot of times I'll make bookmarks with a book that I'm doing a book study with people, and then I laminate them. Many times I'll find a quote and put on there and, put a ribbon on there, etc. So anyway, all right, there's our guy. Let's go ahead and make his hat and scarf. And we're going to do 2 things for the hat and scarf. We're going to we're going to dry emboss and put this through the cut and emboss machine using an embossing folder. But before I do that, I'm going to take that little extra stamp that I have with just a little splatter. I'm going to put that on this cardstock very randomly. Now, I could do this with the Versamark that I just used to emboss And what it'll do is just make darker spots. This is actually, putting ink onto here, but the other would just be adding the ink that, you could emboss this too with the heat gun, but otherwise it will just make darker spots on cardstock. And it's a good way to get two-tone on your cardstock if you don't have all the inks. You can just use Versamark and it will become whatever ink, you want it to be. So it's another, kind of very versatile tool to have in your stamp stash. Ink stash. Oh boy, I keep putting that into the ink. I'm pressing kind of hard, I guess. I'm just wiping off the corner so I don't get a big triangle of this on here. And I'm turning it so that it doesn't look like the same stamp, obviously. Oh, got it in there again. Okay. So let me just set this to the side. Okay, and then, so one of the rules, when you are wanting to stamp and emboss on the same thing, you always stamp first, especially if you're doing a sentiment. Because if you try to stamp the sentiment after you've already put a piece of cardstock through the cut and emboss machine, it's going to have elevations on it, right? And your sentiment will not stamp straight all the time. Sometimes you might get lucky if it's a thick font, but otherwise it can look kind of funny. So always stamp first and emboss second. I'm just taking a basics 3D embossing folder that we had quite a while ago. And remember, the Stampin' Up logo side is the front where you're going to see things pop forward. So I'm just going to put this on here because I just want a little texture on my hat and scarf. So I'm going to run that through over here. Changing up my sandwich. I do so many. Let's see, is this one 3D? Yep, I have to have my special sandwich for this one. So it's the base plate and a specialty plate for the thicker embossing folder. So this sandwich only had two parts, the special plate and the base plate. And all right, we've got our texture. I think that'll look more like it's actually a knit hat and knit scarf. Now I'm going to take the dies for the hat and for the scarf, and I'm going to put those through, and I'm going to kind of put them off to the side here because I bet you I'll be able to do this again and make a pair of these so I can make another bookmark. And now this one is going to be the base plate and actually a thin adapter plate. So you either follow the directions of your cut and emboss machine, or you can refer to many times. They'll have the whole thing right on your machine itself. And then I put the base cut plate and put our item that we're going to cut with the cardstock down. And then I'm going to put the top cutting plate. And now I'm going to run this through. Okay. Now I'll just need my take your pick tool to just push this out of the die. There's always some little extra holes to help do that. And it actually has some like air vents in it, which is part of the die, which is very fun. And then we've got our scarf, which actually fell out of here, so that's perfect. All right, I'm going to set that off to the side. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue these onto my little guy. Try to get in between those air vents so the glue doesn't gush out. Oop, I probably don't need it on the top of that hat because the top of that beanie won't be getting glued to anything. There, okay. So we're just going to put that in place. Oh, and you know what? Good thing, because if I want to use this on both sides, I need to make another beanie so it matches on the other side. So I'll be putting that back through. And we have his scarf here. Oops. Okay. You know what? Let me just throw this back on here again so that I get the hat and scarf for the other side. Well, thank goodness I did that the way I did it, because I did need a second one. And then when you're doing your next embossed image, always flip your plates, because otherwise over time they warp and then they crack sooner than necessary, and then you have to replace them. So always flip your two cutting plates back and forth when you are using it to maintain, the integrity of the plate as long as you can. There we go. Perfect. Now we used our whole little piece of scrap paper. I hadn't planned for that, so good thing that worked out. All right, and we're going to just pop this out. Hi, Trudy. Oh, I'm glad you're liking it. Yeah, he's pretty adorable. Okay, so I'm going to put the glue on the back here. Let's flip our little guy over. So now if I put a little glue on the beanie, it doesn't matter because I'm going to have both sides to glue together. Let's go ahead and get this one ready too. And that might just cover up our little shoulder problem. Okay, so now I'm going to just match this to the other hat. There we go. And let's get our scarf on. Well, sure enough, that even covers up our little area that didn't take with the embossing powder. I'll tell you, we're doing well today. Okay, so then the last thing I'm going to do, now I could have stamped red buttons on here or black buttons, but I decided that I wanted to use a little extra something. So I went into my little Christmas stash and I found these tiny buttons that were stars. And I thought they would be so cute on here. So what I'm going to do is put a little glue on them and get my finer tweezers. and my silicone mat and put some glue on these. And I am going to get 2 for the other side. I got these ages ago. And I have red and green here, but I'll find some more red ones. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do hearts on the other side. There. We'll add a little something extra by adding a variety. Okay. And now I'm going to just put a dot of glue on these guys. As they're stuck to the glue. All right, and then I'm going to take my tweezers here and put them in place. Now the glue will dry clear. So we've got that one. Let's get the other one on here. Oh, darn. I got this other one stuck to my finger. All right, so let's just make sure these are pressed down while they're drying. It doesn't take long for this glue to, like set up. What's nice is this color actually looks like the darker polka dots on the scarf and the hat. All right, now let me just set this on the silicone mat to hopefully not have those stick to the paper on my desktop here. All right, and I'm going to place the hearts here now. There we go. And I'm just applying a little pressure on here to help that kind of, get snugged in there. Okay, I'm going to have to clean that off with an alcohol wipe because I do have a little glue on there. All right, so there we go. Now the thing is, with this as a bookmark, you could, if you wanted to, add a ribbon on here, but I love his little hat. I'm going to leave him just as he is. But what a nice bookmark. And like I said, with the fact that this is embossed, that will help hold up better. Making sure that these have dried all the way, your buttons should be just fine on there. But what a nice remembrance. And you know what? You could sign your name on here, or you could dedicate it to someone. You could make their name on here. You could attach this to a rectangle of cardstock and put a name on it or put a banner across it. You could make it one-sided and then write a note on the back or on the inside. Like I said, I ended up gluing it together. So that is our project for today. And just the last thing I want to remind you of is a couple of things. First is this will be my last card making lesson for 2025. I'm going to take a little time off at Christmas and enjoy my family and my friends, get some Christmas baking done myself, maybe use my little bookmark, and be back the week of January 5th with a new card making lesson. I will send reminders and it will be posted on my Facebook page. But don't forget today yet, if you've registered, is going to be our crop, and we're going to make New Year's crackers. And not crackers that you eat, the crackers that you pull apart that are filled with little surprises. And so I will be sending a reminder out to everybody with the link in case you um, don't have your email. Otherwise, the link is on the email that you got when you registered. So, and lastly, if there's anything from Stampin' Up that you want to order between now and the end of the year, you can contact me because I will watch my email at Traci, Traci, at plumcrazystamping.com. And any $50 purchase will result in you getting this Lights of Aurora 4-card free tutorial sent to you via email at the beginning of January. And you could use this for any stamp set, designer series paper that you have, but it's ideas in card design, which I know is something you're always looking for. So let's go ahead and back that up. And I will just wish each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I hope to see some of you in my crop in about 20 minutes. Anyway, thanks for joining me today, friends. It's been an awesome year of crafting with you. All the best in 2026. Take care and happy stamping. Goodbye.